because it can only lead to one thing, and that's very bad. You know what that thing is. I think it's a very dangerous, terrible thing. And I think it's terrible when we can't know the results of an election the night of the election in a modern-day age of computer. I think it's a terrible thing. And I happen to think it was a terrible decision for our country made by the Supreme Court. I think it was a terrible decision for our country. And I think it's a very dangerous decision because you're going to have one or two or three states, depending on how it ends up, where they're tabulating ballots, and the rest of the world is waiting to find out. And I think there's great danger to it, and I think a lot of fraud and misuse can take place. I think it's a terrible decision by the Supreme Court, a terrible decision. Now, I don't know if that's going to be changed because we're going to go in the night of, as soon as that election's over, we're going in with our lawyers. But we don't want to have Pennsylvania where you have a political governor, a very partisan guy. And we don't want to have other states like Nevada where you have the head of the Democratic clubhouse as your governor. We don't want to be in a position where he's allowed to every day watch ballots come in. Gee, if we could only find 10,000 more ballots. Because we're doing great in Nevada, we're doing great in Arizona, we're doing great all over. But if you take Nevada or Pennsylvania, and everyone knows what happens in Philadelphia, you don't have to say it, but I've read about it for years. And I don't think it's fair that we have to wait a long period of time after the election. If people wanted to get their ballots in, they should have gotten their ballots in long before that, a long time. They don't have to put their ballots in the same day. They could have put their ballots in a month ago. And we think it's a ridiculous decision. Thank you.
That was Donald Trump in North Carolina earlier this evening, basically admitting that he's going to declare victory on election night if there's even a slight chance that it looks like he's ahead in the preliminary vote count. And it was also reported by Jonathan Swan at Axios that multiple sources in the Trump campaign are basically saying that if he's leading in, let's say, key states like Pennsylvania, Donald Trump is not only going to come out and say that things are looking good, but that he is going to declare himself the winner, even if no media sources, even if none of the official electoral, officials actually make the same call. This is very dangerous. We're getting it from multiple sources. We also, on this channel, covered Jason Miller earlier today with George Stephanopoulos, basically say that we think we're going to be at 280 or 290 Electoral College votes at the end of election night, and anything that happens after that, if the result flips, aka the votes are actually counted, and it happens to go Democrat, it means the Democrats have stolen the election. Guys, I know I'm harping on this, but this really is how a coup happens in a country like the United States. A coup is not going to be like something you see in the movies. It's not going to be something where, everyone's running through the streets and it's absolute bedlam. That's not really what it's going to be like. It's going to be through procedure and propaganda and confident messaging, even if the facts and realities fly in the face of that messaging. This is how it happens. Donald Trump seizes an early lead and then tries to use local and state officials and local and national judges, including perhaps the Supreme Court, to basically rule that the only votes that matter are the ones counted on the first day, and then that's how he's going to legitimize his rule for another 4 years, even though there's a very good chance that if all the votes were counted, he would lose. Not a guarantee. Not a guarantee. Unlike Donald Trump, the Democrats have admitted it's possible they could lose legitimately. Trump seems to think that if he loses, it's only because of fraud. But every respectable analyst is giving Biden heavy favorite odds to win this. Again, not a guarantee. And so Trump can win this. But he wants to make no doubt that if he has a lead in states like Pennsylvania and in Florida, that he's going to declare victory on election night. And again, the whole point was to invalidate any vote not cast in the traditional in-person on the day vote, because those are the people most likely to be voting for him. Bernie notes it in recent coverage today. Bernie has reiterated this, but Bernie's been saying it for weeks, if not longer, that that's Trump's plan. Build a lead potentially on election night based on early counts that may not be representative of the final result or of the types of votes that are being cast, and then do everything he can procedurally to shut things down. That's how he's going to try to do it. That's what's going to happen, or that at least that's what Trump hopes will happen. And again, this is not hidden. Trump has admitted it kind of in the sly through surrogates at first, but this is Trump in that clip I played for you at the beginning of the video. This is Trump saying, as soon as the election is over, as soon as polls close, we're going in with the lawyers. We want everything shut down. He's not even just saying that the votes that come in late shouldn't be counted. He's not even just saying that, which would be bad and anti-democratic enough. He's basically implying that if we don't have the votes counted by the end of the night on November 3rd, they shouldn't be counted at all. But the thing is, even going back to 2016, Donald Trump was not declared president until after midnight on election night. So going by that result, Donald Trump's victory from 4 years ago is at the very least suspect because it was declared with ballots counted after midnight. And as I've noted before, even if you do exclude the absentee and late coming in mail-in ballots, very few states actually finish counting all of the ballots by the end of election night. It often takes 1 or 2 or 3 days, sometimes maybe even a week or two, to get all the ballots counted and certified. And so this idea that late ballots or absentee ballots or mail-in ballots will flip the result is an absurd notion, because you can't flip a result until you have one. The only way you could flip a result is hypothetically in a razor-thin election. You get all the ballots counted and certified, but then there's a recount, and on a recount, the key states flip and somebody else wins. That's a flipped result, but it only happens once every single ballot is counted and accounted for, and the ones that are challenged are adjudicated by judges and officials. That's how you flip a result. I just want people to be vigilant. Again, on election night, myself, like smaller YouTube creators, people who cover the news as commentators, but all the way up to CNN and international news networks, they really have to resist buying into Trump's effort to rhetorically declare victory before the key sources that often do sort of decide these things, like Associated Press, for instance. The AP call is often the historic call. People will measure, when did AP call the election? Trump wants to throw that aside. And so all of us, if you have a small YouTube channel, a big YouTube channel, you're at a media network, or even if you're just seeing friends and family share on Facebook that Donald Trump has won when it hasn't been called, challenge that. Because if we don't, Trump's first step in the coup will be complete. Once he legitimizes rhetorically that he's won, it's going to make it a lot easier for all the other pieces of the puzzle to fall into place. And that's how the United States ceases to be a democracy.